guys, I want to welcome you to the weekly Wednesday for the Financial Freedom newsletter, where every week, every Wednesday, we delve into something inspirational, motivational, something excerpt taken from the Financial Freedom weekly newsletter. Wherever you are, if you're listening on Spotify, on iTunes, Google, be sure to click the like, subscribe, share, comment. And without ado, let's get into the show. Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And today I'm delighted to have a special guest, Stephanie Fee, and she is committed to living a life that is wildly authentic. We're going to be talking about leadership, startups, what leadership looks like, writing your story, resilience, and I'm really excited for this session. So, Stephanie, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited too.
Yeah, I know we had connected through Podmatch, and like I said, I'm always in the marketplace for new ideas, people doing different things, getting the insights and distinctions and applying it. So tell the audience about your story, your background, how you got started.
Sure. Well, it's quite long. What I'll say is that I've been on sort of a non-linear path to self-development, to transforming my life. This place that I kind of always dreamed of, which was a life of my design that really just felt good to me, and kind of called in the things that I want to have happen without having to make it so hard. You know, I learned at an early age, or I taught myself, and the world sort of seemed to teach me that if I wanted something good, if I wanted to advance in my life in any way, shape, or form, that it had to be hard. And so I've really kind of been on this journey as of late, really like that's not true.
And when you say this revelation that it's not hard, what are some of the epiphanies and revelations that you discovered?
Yeah, well, I think dating back to when I was about 23 years old, I worked for an incredible company, and that's where I started like a path of self-development, because they really promoted self-development in everything we did. I worked with entrepreneurs. And so, that was a really cool path to be on so young. So conceptually, I learned how to, sort of rewrite, the narrative to my future, attract in. This was like around the time The Secret was produced, if you know that documentary. So I learned this stuff, but then to take it and actually absorb it, I'll tell you, that takes some time. So in the process, so much has happened in that's been 20 years ago now. And I think you can know something, but then to actually believe it and integrate it, it takes time, and it takes new perspective and unwinding those stories and really recognize where you started telling yourself these things, right? So my stories went back from when I was quite young. So I had a tough childhood, an abusive household, lots of chaos, and it always felt like everything I wanted it always had to be tough. It always had to be hard. I always had to, to kind of pummel through and fight for it. And that became really exhausting. Is that answering your question?
Okay. So it sounds like more like you're talking more about alignment and, getting in direction with, destiny or karma, whatever, dharma, what they talk about. And, basically getting congruent with your purpose. But I really love this because, you've done a lot of things, and what I love is how you can incorporate. So first thing is you talk about writing your story and the joy and pain that comes from vulnerability. We live in a culture where, we have to appear that everything is great on the outside. And so, but that's not the real truth. Tell us more.
Yeah. Vulnerability to me is something I was just born with, and I could never get away from not being vulnerable, right? Because it's my nature to be open. And so from a really young age, that made me very susceptible being hurt, because when you don't also have sort of the well-being and the sort of resilience that's built over time helps you become vulnerable in a way that is less susceptible, because there's this like deep level of confidence that you can carry with it. So I feel like that's what's shifted a lot. And then there were times where I kind of blocked that out because I was like, well, I'm vulnerable. And then I feel like I'm punished for it. I feel like if I tear up, then it's a comment later of you're emotional, or, some type of reflection back at me. And then, of course, over the last 5 years or maybe a little bit more, the conversation has been more universal about vulnerability. And I think as a female, the conditioning society has for us compared to men, maybe it's okay. It's sort of been okay for us to be vulnerable. It hasn't, because when we've felt like, or at least I've felt like, it comes back to you in sort of a way. And I love now that, men are a part of this conversation and men are getting involved, because I think that means that then men and women can connect on different levels, especially when it comes to relationships, of course, but then also in leadership, in company. So I kind of have shifted, my role as like a female with being vulnerable and unafraid to be so, as like almost like a responsibility, and that I can help like not just women, but men also kind of step into that space, and they tend to trust me and feel like they can tell me what they want to say that maybe they can't say outside of the realm of our bubble, so that they can eventually do that, right? But you got to start somewhere.
And you turn this wildly authentic and unearthing, transmuting pain into potential, writing your story into leadership, and you learn some leadership experiences, which you dub courageous leadership, more gut, less ego. I think our world has too much ego these days. And I'd love for you to expand upon that idea.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, it's conditioning. And then it's also just, we end up like leading with our egos. And you find this in so many messages that are put out there. Like, my title is CEO, I have a startup. I was like, I'm not that important, and I don't mean that in that I don't think that I'm an important human being or that I don't have a lot to offer. I mean, why are we putting people up on these unhealthy pedestals that they then think they have to match up with this sort of, be Steve Jobs or be LeBron James or be, I know LeBron is a basketball player, but like, be perfect, be this picture. Well, I watched people leaders deteriorate over and over again, primarily CEO positions. And I started to feel that way. Granted, I had this core of health and wellness, so I was able to like not go too deep with that, but I was feeling really heavy about the weight of the world on me. Like, I'm responsible for everyone, everything, all the messaging, everything the company has to offer. It's me. Nah, that's not the kind of life I want the company to live. That's really arrogant and very ego driven. And so, I started realizing, I'm like, okay, my co-founder is amazing at presenting. She should be on podcasts. We need to share in this, in this experience, rather than like put it all on one person and then you're carrying this around the whole time. So I think, the ego, after you start realizing what it is, it's like, I'll just talk to myself and I'll be like, oh, that's so gross. That's my ego. Get it out of there, clear it, and like, move forward with progress, So we tell ourselves a lot of stories about the way we need to look and act and behave in leadership. And this is all a farce. It's history. It doesn't have to be now, that's kind of how I'm going after it.
Yeah, it's interesting. And studying billionaires and, people who have picture perfect lives, I've, I've learned that what you see on the surface is magnified what's going on. There's skeletons and, a lot of things going on that you don't see, you realize, and, a lot of it's, all of it's like a show. So, one
That's
thing
right.
is, yeah. And then, so you talk about this idea of what true leadership looks like, overcoming appearance. I watched some interviews on Bloomberg, and they're all polished and up, everything, but that's not what real leadership is. Tell us more about overcoming appearance.
Yeah, I mean, I always ask people in regard to, getting ready, like, what do you do that helps you feel like you're at a high performance level, and I feel like how we dress or present ourselves is all about being authentic. And being authentic means you're gonna care, really, you're gonna care, but you're gonna do it in a way that really is original for you. Because if you don't care, you're probably not being authentic, because there's probably some kind of rub in there or some reason why you're like, I'm not going to do it because I'm just going to show that I can wear a sweatshirt. Okay, if that's why you're doing it, it's not authentic, right? If you're wearing a suit and you're like, this is how I love showing up and I feel really good, then great on you. But I think showing up is so much about our energy, and then we're losing out on the beauty of self-expression when we stifle ourselves to be like, you must dress like this, otherwise we don't think that you look like you can handle it. You look too fun, or you don't look fun enough, right? It's never and so I say freedom of expression, and everyone is creative. And I think how we show up and our appearance, really, it's just such a great expression of ourselves. And so I love just watching when people show up to a cool, party, and they're free to dress however they want. And I just love seeing the originality, even if it is a t-shirt. Maybe it's a hilarious t-shirt that grabs your attention, right? Maybe that's how you show up and that's your authentic self. I don't know. I say, go for it.
I always love hanging around artists, musicians, athletes, because you have this, when you're around them, you have this creative energy about you, and nobody's judging you by what watch you're wearing or these superficial things. One thing is, as a leader, you've done a lot of things. Basically, you're CEO, co-founder of NOCK Sustainable Wellness, and you're founder and writer as well, and so you work with a lot of clients in this realm of authenticity, vulnerability. You're going to get misunderstood. What do you want people to know that they don't know, and that they most often misunderstand about you the most?
About me? Good. That's a good question. I'm going to actually daringly make an assumption here, only based on, responses that I've gotten, right? Like the comments in certain contexts before people really know me. So something that is interesting is that because I'm a creative person, and because I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller, all these things, that what people don't understand is I love the business world. I'm obsessed with startups and scaling and growth and making an impact. I really do. Looking at that data, I'm always listening to a business book, something, that's going to make our offer better, something that's going to add more value. And so I think maybe, because of appearances or my personality, because I'm so kind of open and more casual, that can be overlooked. And yeah, so also sometimes people, this is kind of me making a joke, people think I'm 25 and I'm 43. And I think maybe I look a little bit better on Zoom than I do in person. Maybe we all do. I don't know. But it's kind of funny because sometimes I'm just like, oh, no, I'm actually, because they'll say, how do you know this stuff? You're only in your 20s. I don't think I look like I'm in my 20s, but it's funny. So I'm 43. I've had a big breadth of experience, and yeah, I'm a creative who also loves the business world, especially social entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I love that. And so I really love this idea how you take your kind of this creative energy, you molded and you shaped it, and you've done a lot of great things. How can people follow you on social media, contact you, and reach out to you?
Yeah, so my Instagram and LinkedIn are probably the best. So under Stephanie Lynn Fee, Instagram, and then LinkedIn, Stephanie Fee Mashik, I think it's under. You can find me there, and then there's links to NOCK Wellness. We offer organizations what we call SWAS. So you might know SAS. We offer sustainable wellness as a service for impact-driven companies. And then, yeah, I do memoir writing and private work with people on storytelling, so leaders.
And yeah, so thanks so much for a really interesting, vibrant conversation. All of Stephanie's resources will be in the links in the show notes, and thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
I hope you really enjoyed that wonderful, inspirational, motivational piece. Again, wherever you are listening, if you liked it, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, Audible. And without much ado, be sure to thank this show's sponsors, and we'll see you next week.